Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blame It on Marketing. We have some very special guests. You'll probably make the connection very quickly once I start talking about it, but this episode is all about making the most out of conferences and out of the events that you are attending as a business or as an individual. We've got the lovely marketing team from Tech for Marketing Expo that we're going to be going to in a couple of weeks' time. So this episode will come out right before then. So if you still haven't registered, go register. Marketing gets free tickets and you can meet us. We can do fun things. There's going to be loads on, so don't miss the chance. But I will throw it over to the marketing team to introduce themselves. I'll just pick someone to start with. I'm going to say Laura.
Okay, no problem. Hello, everyone. So I'm Laura. I'm the Senior Content Marketing for eCommerce Expo and Technology for Marketing. I'm still quite junior in my role, but, I'm really enjoying it. And I focus on everything that has to do with creating lovely content about our conferences, our theaters, and all of the features of the show. It's a lot of fun.
Hello, I'm Alyssia. I'm the Senior Content Producer for Technology for Marketing and also the eCommerce Expo side as well. I've been in kind of event content probably for about 5 years now. So I started in kind of like kind of post-purchase content, so kind of more around like the last mile. Then I went very heavy kind of like brand side marketing content with Marketing Week, and now obviously I'm with Technology for Marketing. So it's all very exciting. I started with this team beginning of this year and they are super lovely. I'm just super lucky to be with these guys and they're all super smart, get the job done, which is amazing. And yeah, brilliant. Anyway, I will hand over to Shannon before I start yapping on.
Yeah, so I'm Shannon. I'm the marketing manager for eCommerce Expo and Technology for Marketing. My exhibitions career, I have been in the industry for about 5-6 years as well. I've worked for two major exhibition organisers through various different sectors, from managed services to safety and security to international security to manufacturing, and now Technology for Marketing and also e-commerce. So I kind of been here, there, everywhere. I'm also new, just like Alyssia, joined the company about 9 months ago. So yeah, first show cycle with e-commerce and Technology for Marketing, but it's going amazing, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing life come to the show.
So guys, before we get into the topic of conversation, which is obviously all about these big conferences, of which Ruta and I know them very well, tell us
More Emma than I, but
I know I've definitely earned my stripes. So before we get into the topic, ladies, I would love to hear, obviously you guys have had a range of experience working across marketing and exhibitions. So we'd love to hear what's your deepest, darkest marketing confession? What's the thing that you've messed up and you've been like, oops?
You mentioned that this was like about trauma. So this is therapy for me right now. I need to put it out there. I need to be accepted for it. So yes, I was running paid media campaigns in my previous job, actually, which was heavily focused on paid media. I was a paid media specialist, and it was a lot of pressure because I was handling big budgets, and I was like, okay, this is a lot of money. I can't mess up, basically. Except one time I kind of did, and I let the budget overrun by, I'm not going to say an insane amount of money at the scale of like a business, but at my own scale, I was like, this is more money than I can see in a long time. So anyway, so I felt really, really bad about it. But my manager at the time was just like, it happens all the time. Worst case scenario, it's brand awareness. It's fine. She really helped me go through it. But me, a little scared, it was my first job also at the time. I was just like, I've ruined my entire life. So that was it. So that's it. But I overcame it, and now I'm still slightly afraid of paid media because everything can happen. But
yeah, Ruta's theory is they're running a paid racket basically, and just hoping that we all mess it up all the time so they make extra money. So
honestly,
I think that's why it's so complicated.
I support that theory. Actually, I think it's true.
Okay, mine's kind of less on the marketing side, more on kind of obviously my content side of event content. So when I kind of first got my first budget to pay speakers, I basically really overspent on a speaker that no one really knew. So it didn't have the reach, not as many people came. It was kind of like our opening keynote session as well. It was we were just coming out of the pandemic as well. So it was like we really needed like a high quality, well-known speaker that could kind of bring people back to live events. And it was I think it ended up being about a quarter of my speaker budget. And the kind of learning point from it, I guess, is that just always follow your gut. I knew deep down that person wasn't the right speaker, and didn't do what we wanted them to do for the event. And that would be like the takeaway, I guess, if we were going to turn this into a little positive thing, would just be like, always follow your gut, because your gut knows. Like, and I was getting, like, don't get me wrong, I was getting messages from the team and stuff like that, and there was hesitance there, but so also just listen to the team and ask questions as well, get people's thoughts on things, and just always be curious about what people think of the work that you're doing. Whereas at the beginning I was like, I felt like I had to kind of prove myself and like do everything on my own and all this kind of stuff, but it's really not like that. And that's one of the things I think which is so great about this team. We're so collaborative, and we're quite happy to like get each other's thoughts on things and opinions, and I think that's why we're quite strong as a unit, if that makes sense. So that's what I would say. That was that went down quite like a learning route, but yeah, I'll hand over to Shannon.
Oh yeah, my deepest, darkest marketing confession. I would say I love a plain text email. They always perform. They perform great from a visitor communication side to an exhibitor communication side. And in my first year of marketing, I kind of messed up the personalization out to about 80,000 to 100,000 people, and I sent it out wrong name, wrong company name as well. And I realized I started having like a panic attack. And my manager at the time, she kind of looked at me. She was like, "Shannon, we're not brain surgeons. We're fine. We are humans at the end of the day." So how we did that, how we kind of like resolved it, I kind of like sent up a follow-up to that email, kind of like making it look like an Outlook reply, and was like, "Hiya, oh, as you can see, like I'm human. It happens to the best of us. Just make sure that you got this." And the replies that I got back from that email was like, "Don't worry, like it's absolutely fine. Can't wait to see you at the show." So it kind of actually turned out to be like a marketing like incentive. Everyone was like, "Oh, don't be like, it's absolutely fine. Like things happen." And that kind of like made me feel quite like good in the end. But it was a fuck up, but it was good.
Maybe we should do the same this year, like on purpose.
Honestly, like it's like a nice marketing ploy.
It's more human. Yeah.
Ruta and I did this bad marketing thing, and we so should have done that. We should have sent emails to everybody and been like, "Hello, first name." I love those. Those make me die. I nearly always reply being like, "It's okay, hun. Don't worry. Like,
Yeah,
you'll live."
Everyone does. And especially when you're in technology for marketing, a lot of our exhibitors obviously do like our like CRMs and email providers. They're like, "Do you need help with your email platform?" And I'm like, "No."
It was just a mistake.
I just need
Come
more
on,
To be
time,
fair,
you know.
though, yeah. The longer we do confessions, the more we realize that basically, if you haven't fucked up a PPC campaign or an email mail merge, you're kind of not even in marketing at that point, you know? Like it happens to everyone. It's a rite of passage. Shall we dig into the main topic, obviously, of conferences? We're really glad to have you here, because obviously not only are you marketers for conferences, you're also marketing to marketing people, marketing conferences. So it's like the holy trinity of the marketing combo. But from your opinion, where do you see vendors or sponsors or people that are exhibiting go really wrong when it comes to conferences?
I think with conferences, I think like they don't engage with the marketing teams like throughout the show cycle until like the last minute, and also like they don't have like anything happening on their stands. Like a lot of exhibitors that I've like spoken to like in my years, they've kind of just expect people to come up to them, when actually it's a bit of both, and you actually have to be like enthusiastic and kind of like pulling people from the arm. I'm not saying like kidnap someone, but kind of like just grab their attention and talk to them about your product, about your service. And like it's a bit of like a best of both kind of world situation. So that's where my main kind of qualm is with that.
Yeah, I would say, just to add to Shannon's, that work with your marketing team, 100%, and going into more of like, if a sponsor comes on board and they have a session at the event as well, I see a lot of just kind of their speakers come in front of our audiences and just basically do a pitch of their service, and we know that is just going to switch off the audience. They're going to be uninterested. They might even leave the session. So one of the kind of tips I always give to sponsors if they are speaking at our events is have a play with the format. So don't just do a keynote where you kind of stand up and talk about your solution. Try and maybe bring a brand. So a kind of, even if it's a brand that you don't work with, like if it's not a client, brilliant if it is a client, you can talk about a case study that you've worked on and it was successful, talk about that, brilliant. But even if it's just someone within your network that's from a brand, and talk about, like best practices, and kind of really hit that kind of thought leadership level of content. And then you'll find that potential clients or people that are interested in your business want to be aligned with you, because you are talking about really top level stuff. And it's kind of more of a subconscious thing than a pitch sales, like come and speak to us. Like people just want to be involved with what you're doing. So that's what I would say in terms of if you are kind of doing a bit of kind of content at the event. And yeah, just to reiterate what Shannon said about, it's what you'll get out what you put into it. So investing in like something exciting. I think the most exciting thing I saw, it was another one of our portfolio that were doing an event, which obviously at the moment AI is a huge thing, right? So they had this camera that took a photo of you, and it turned your photo into kind of like, did anyone ever do that Barbie AI thing, where it like turned your photo into like a Barbie kind of AI photo? Yeah, it was a little bit like that. And like they sent you the photo afterwards, and it was like a professional photo where you'd be wearing like a tie and stuff. And then you got sent it and you could put it on LinkedIn. And then also they did a little printout as well. And obviously it was branded with their kind of their logo and things like that. And after that, I thought that was a brilliant way to kind of keep their brand with that long-term branding piece, basically. But yeah, anyway, I've rambled. Over to you, Laura.
No, I was actually just going to pick back up on that, where I think it's really about the type of experience they'll be able to provide, because at the end of the day, sure, like people will be there and like you might have good conversations, but they will remember you much more if you've actually let them experience something. So what we see works really well on our shows is when, they have this type of activities that are personalized, that make people want to have fun. They see the stand and they're like, this is fun. I want to do it. And it's not even about the brand. And then the conversation kind of ensues from there. This is also the type of post on social media that perform the best from those brands, because they're like, come at the event and this will be like a fun activity, So yeah, totally agree with you guys.
As an in-house person, I've never felt like I had much access to people like you who are the marketers at the exhibition, or the people organizing the exhibition. Is that my fault? Like, maybe should I have been reaching out to you, or is it maybe not so normal to kind of be very involved with that team? Like, how does that work? Because you guys seem like you're all up for it, and even from the stuff that we've been doing together, that's been the feeling. But is that the normal kind of approach?
We've if you're exhibiting at the show, and also like I'm working with the marketing team, like we do provide like a platform like called the Ezone, as we kind of say, or which is what we create for you guys to kind of, for you to be able to push out your involvement and promote that you are actually exhibiting at the show. And we have loads of assets in there for you. There are times, especially with our partnership as well, because we are media partners together. You have our direct contact with Laura and Alyssia, and also because you guys are speaking at the show too. So there is a bit more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like very, like we're more, can't figure the word. Thank you. Involved. A lot more involved with you guys. Yeah. 100%. So you will definitely see a bit more of a communication with the marketing team directly with us. If you're like an exhibitor, you'll have more of a communication line with your account manager, the person who sold you into the show effectively. And they also do have the marketing expertise, especially our team. They're really great with marketing and making sure that you're getting the most out of your experience with the show. So there are various different channels, and if there are any opportunities for us, the kind of marketing to get involved with sales teams, get on a call to really discuss how much further you can push out your brand to our attendees through social or even on site, there are opportunities there. So it's all about kind of like communicating with your main contacts at the show, really.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think one of the things that I've seen as being the kind of like in-house person, and Ruta's done the same as me really, like at times, where we've been the in-house marketer that's been basically communicating back with people like yourselves. And I think one of the things where I see people have gone wrong is they don't make a plan for the event. They just kind of like, they're like, okay, well, we'll do everything on the checklist because we have to, but we don't necessarily use the assets you guys provide. The sales team and other people who are attending the event don't want to do things like log in to your online portal, where you can maybe like set up meeting. We're just rolling her eyes because she's like, yeah, we know. They don't want to go in and like connect with people and start conversations with people. And then like I say, like sometimes what happens in-house is, as the marketer, if you're not an event specialist, you'd be very lucky if you're on a small team and you've got an event specialist. It falls to someone like us who ends up doing it and kind of begrudgingly is like, oh, do I really have to organize all this crap on top of everything else? Which is a really poor way of looking at it, because these events are so expensive for like, understandably so. That's not me complaining about the cost of sponsoring an event. They're expensive for a reason. But if you do not do things like sit down and make a plan and work with your sales team and think about that stuff, even a couple of months out before the event, then what happens is you scan a load of badges, you're like, oh, but we generated a load of leads, and then nothing comes from it. And that's when people start to get this kind of like, oh, shouldn't we go to that event? And it's basically because you haven't maximized 100%, like the ladies are saying.
Yeah,
so make a plan.
100%. And like after COVID, everyone kind of like realized after COVID that being face to face with people was a massive thing, and the exhibitions industry boomed like crazy after. I think I had a show that after COVID ended, we launched 6 months afterwards, and we were like one of the first shows that ran after COVID. It was a massive like 6 co-located events at the NEC, and like it was a massive show. But the unprecedented demand that we saw of people who wanted to go, and exhibitors and attendees, it was crazy. No one predicted that we would get that many people after a massive pandemic like COVID. And like one thing that I remember so vividly in my head that my CEO say to me is like, over 65% of businesses now consider being at an exhibition as part of their marketing strategy. And because it's become so much more important to actually get face to face to maintain your existing relationships whilst also making new ones, and like the network opportunities that they can provide, it's unparalleled to any other kind of asset within your marketing strategy. So I would always recommend exhibitions. I'm a bit biased, but I would always recommend it.
I mean, that was that was the next question we were going to ask, which is, obviously it is a greater demand around events and around sponsoring. But have you found that vendors and people who are sponsoring are kind of like have a greater push on, or like more grilling, let's say, on your account managers around the return on the investment they can expect? Because we know, for example, like marketing budgets have been cut. It makes our lives very, very difficult. We obviously want to be able to splash out on big conferences, but the conversations maybe changed a little bit from just being like, yeah, we want to sponsor this, to now being like, okay, what are we going to get back?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of both, to be honest. Like if you are gonna sponsor an event or be part of an event, I think you do need to kind of like jump into it.
Yeah, and also one of the things I would say about that, and I think it's probably something that our account managers do say to clients as well, is like, being very conscious that sometimes you're not going to see results straight away, right? Obviously, there is going to be that ROI piece, which is super duper important, but there is that long-term brand building piece as well that I think a lot of B2B businesses forget about. One thing I would recommend a lot of marketers to read, and a lot of people already know about them as well, is Les Binet's and Peter Field's Long versus Short of It, which talks kind of about that long-term brand, I can't say brand building today, that long-term brand building piece, and obviously the short-term sales piece. I would recommend looking at that, and also the LinkedIn B2B Institute research as well, which is really useful. That can be really helpful to kind of understand why it's so important to not forget about that long-term brand building, and how, it might not show results straight away, but if you're investing in the right areas and the right sponsorship, it can really put you at the forefront of potential clients' minds when they are in market and they are looking for a new solution. So that is just something to keep in mind as well, I would say.
I think also from my side, where I've seen the ROI piece not work is when the brand isn't matching their product to the cost of the event. So for example, if you're going to a big event and it's going to cost you, let's say 50k to buy a spot, put up a stand, get everyone there, blah 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 blah, but your product is like a $500 a year subscription, you're going to have to sell a heck load of those to make back the money. So just doing and I know this sounds like the most basic shit on earth, but I know people don't do that math. They're just like, oh, we'll go to an exhibition. There's people there. Let's do a thing. And it's like, no, you're going to have to sell 1,000 licenses on the day or the month within that to cover that. And I don't think you even have 1,000 clients probably right now. So it's probably not going to be worth it, especially if there's, I don't know, 5,000 people attending. So 1 in 5, the odds ain't good.
Yeah, but it depends what you do, right? And it depends if you do see this as a brand building exercise and you're not expecting that, because it is fine to do a brand building exercise, right? And not to expect immediate ROI and not to expect, whatever, but you want to do it as an opportunity to open yourself up to a new audience, let's say. That's also fine, but you've got to be really clear, haven't you? I think that's it, isn't it, Ruta? About what your goal going to this event is. What's the purpose of you being there? That's the main thing. And I think so many people, and I think that goes back to the not doing anything on the stand piece. If you want to build relationships with people, nobody walks up to your stand and is ready to buy and goes, oh wow, I didn't know you existed. That is so uncommon.
Yeah. Rare.
Totally. And I think it's also a case of putting this event within your year strategy, right? Your yearly marketing strategy. It's going back to what we were saying earlier, basically, and just really planning ahead and making it part of your marketing strategy, basically.
Yeah, something I was going to say about that is that there's also the angle of what does it say about your brand if you're not there? This is the biggest e-commerce event in the whole of the UK. If your brand is not here, you're not on the scene, people might be wondering about that as well.
100%. We always go with that ploy, with your competitors are here, why aren't you? You want to be on the same level, playing field, get in amongst them.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things we used to do, actually, Ruta, if you remember when we had our event strategy, when we worked in-house together, is we basically used to say to the sales team, we have worked out how many leads you need from this event, that we know how long they will take to convert, etc., etc., etc. We know how successful this event is. So we've worked it out. So if you don't come home with 20 good leads or whatever it is, you don't come back, basically. It's all really clearly worked out. So they're the sales team that are there, they know how to maximize on it. And also Ruta and I used to stalk the stand, and it's a bit you have to kind of go there sometimes as a marketer and be we're watching you. You better be hustling, because if you're not hustling, the marketing team are watching you. So,
we'll just do it for them and then embarrass them, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah.
And I think the other piece is just just have a little bit of empathy. Everyone's there to, get a bit of business. Everyone's going to feel a little bit awkward in that first conversation, but salespeople are good at what they do. Well, most people are good at what they do, so they know what they need to do. And I think the people that are going there are expecting to be approached by you. So it shouldn't be a scary thing. I mean, it is naturally within our human ways that we are, but the more you do it, obviously the easier it gets as well. That's the other thing. The first one's always going to be a bit like, ugh, unless you're extremely extroverted, then it's a different situation.
100%. I remember my first exhibition, just being like in marketing, I was like, I don't want to go talk to exhibitors. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go into their stand. They're like, it's all like big and scary. But then after a while, like you do, like they are friendly and they do just want to like talk to you, see how else that they can like do things to improve their stand. Like I always do like a little like social media like post for them to be like, oh, come down and visit Blame It on Marketing on stand K72. Like they're here now. They got this happening on their stand, and like it's a scary thing at first, but it's just getting used to it.
Laura, you had something?
Oh no, I was just going to say for once it was good to be able to blame it on sales rather than marketing. So that was all.
We're all about
that. So kind of continuing on in this expectation/goal setting, can each one of you give us what you think the expectations that sales and marketing should set themselves when attending a big conference?
I think when especially when it's attending a conference that maybe you haven't put, I always see it as like a learning opportunity, kind of like seeing like how are my competitors doing it, and how have they done, like how have they organized their features, like what content have they put on, like is their networking bar like a particular way, how what their show times like I always see it as a learning opportunity. And I always, before I go on site, I always look at like their presence on social media, seeing what they're doing, how we could kind of maybe like adapt something, or like, oh, they've missed an opportunity there with that, I'm gonna improve it here for my own show. So yeah, it's just a massive learning opportunity.
That's actually a great point. So like if you're an exhibitor, so like you've bought a space, maybe try to go to a couple shows that your other competitors will be at, and just see what they're doing, so you can potentially do something more impactful, and you don't all show up with the same concept and the same thing to do. Yeah.
One thing I would say is just like the learning part, 100%, but even to go a little step further and be like, I want to learn 3 new things from the content that's at the show, or I want to kind of learn 2 things that the competitors at the show are doing much better than me at the moment, and go have a look and like make it like specific, if you see what I mean. So when you come away, you've got those kind of practicalities that you can kind of start working on when you get back into the office. That's what I would say. And I think that's it really. I'm trying to think of some other stuff, but Shannon mainly said it. I was just kind of fluffing it up a little bit. Go on, Laura.
I was going to say, I think my advice is a bit counterintuitive maybe, but obviously like big events like that can be so overwhelming. I mean, for ours, for example, we have over 200 hours of live content. We have more than 300 exhibitors. So there's a lot, obviously, and people are going to want to go into this and plan their days kind of like meticulously, because obviously they don't want to miss out on certain speakers, certain exhibitors, etc. But I think one goal they should also set themselves is to have a chunk of time at some point to allow themselves the surprise potentially of whatever could happen. That may mean like going into a random talk, or like wandering about and seeing what's there, but like specifically, yes, organize your day, but also leave some time just to like see what's out there.
Also just breathe as well. Just like, it can be quite overwhelming, can't it?
It's a lot.
Just like recalibrate and just be like, okay, right, so we've done this morning, blah, 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 blah. Do I have any emails? Probably shouldn't be looking at emails. Okay, right, back to it kind of thing. Make sure you eat, make sure you drink, all that kind of stuff.
What is there anything you would add, Ruta, from our side, right? Being the in-house people who've done this,
get your follow-up emails out literally as physically quickly as you possibly can. Like, do it the same night if you can, because there's going to be, over like that week after the event, just a plethora of people emailing. So getting there first, we found that made a huge difference for follow-up for us. And then I would say also, I guess, setting expectations. Have a post plan that everyone is aware of. So if it is, you're going to do the follow-up within 24 hours, and then like debrief with sales and then do whatever, this follow-up or that's going to happen next, kind of have that planned out before you get there, because you will be overwhelmed and tired from being there. So it's good to just have that planned and ready to go once you leave, and not to have to think about it, because it can be a little bit then stressful and overwhelming when you come back and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing next.
Honestly, 100%. We have with our registration provider, like with our exhibitors get like lead scanners where they can like scan people's badges on site, and that's again another point of why you should kind of follow up or plan your presence before going on site, because within the Ezone there is a way where you can actually plan out your questions for all the leads that you scan before you go on site, and it sends to them automatically when you sync up to the system, that kind of thing. So again, another massive reason why you should be kind of getting up to speed before you go on site, and not leaving it the week before, like doing it about a month, 2 months before, getting yourself organized. That will help alleviate that kind of stress too. So 100% agree with that.
I think one of the things that I have always found stressful about these big conferences being when you're the in-house marketer, like I'm removing myself from when I used to organize these exhibitions, because that was a whole nother life. But when you're the in-house marketer, like, I guess annoyingly you should expect to be really stressed out. That's a really annoying thing to say, because you are going to have to be the parent, and you are going to have to make sure like the follow-up is done. You're going to have to make sure the sales team are there. You are going to have to be the person that makes sure everybody rocks up on time, the swag is there, the stuff that is engagement wise on the stand is happening. So I would say, unless you've got a really good sales team who are super engaged and you know that you can trust them, you probably are going to need to go to the event. You probably are going to need to be parent. You probably are also going to have to handle, depending on who's doing the talk, if someone's doing the content bit, you're also going to have to make sure you stay involved with that. The likelihood is, depending on how comfortable whoever it is talking, there might be a freak out moment. We've dealt with a few of those, haven't we, Ruta? Like CEOs, founders, I'm just about to get on stage in front of 50 people, do my slides work, freak out. So you are going to have to try and maintain your cool, and that's not to put people off. But I think it's like, sometimes the thing that turns it into a really stressful situation is you hope to dear God everybody's going to pull their weight, and sometimes they don't, and then you end up feeling, but actually if you kind of take a bit more of a military approach to it, like, I know I'm going to have to go in there and be the person, it tends to run smoother and you'll feel calmer. So yeah, that. And then on the sales side, expectations wise, I think it's like, obviously if the marketing side has done their job, you should feel teed up, you should feel ready to go, but do expect to hustle and work hard. Like, it's not acceptable to turn up on a stand and just stand there. Like, I think we've all said that, but I'm going to be a bit harsher. Like, I think we've all had experiences where, or like, salespeople just wander off the stand and go do something else, and you're like, where are you going? If you're there, your job is to represent the brand and the company, and maybe to sell, but you should be there primarily thinking about how can you build really good relationships with people, how can you support the brand, how can you support, if there's a talk, how can you make sure after the talk those people end up on your stand, and if so you need to go to the talk and bring people to your stand, things like that. So yeah, that's just many years of watching people do silly things at these events, but these sound like basic stuff, but these things don't happen sometimes. So yeah, I think just expect those things, and then it will all go a lot smoother.
Yeah, and that's another thing to add actually in terms of the content. Like, I think you've got some of the like smartest people in the industry all in one place, do you know what I mean, at one time, and use that time to speak to them after sessions. So we get speakers that they sometimes stay for the whole event, sometimes they don't, they make themselves available for a little bit after their sessions. If you don't want to ask them a question during the session, go speak to them, like ask them like what they're doing. If you want some advice around something you're doing at the moment, like there's a reason we bring these people together. It's half of it is like around that networking and learning piece, so not just about creating leads, etc. So yeah, I would 100% recommend that too.
Excellent advice. And so for senior leaders that attend, or that all of a sudden, so obviously you guys probably know this, but what happens to us quite often in marketing is a CEO goes, I've seen this event, we should do this event, and we're like, oh my God, completely out of the blue. So what should senior leaders listening, so CEOs or, heads of sales, those type people listening in, expect from sponsoring a big conference?
I guess with like sponsoring a big conference, like it's not as easy just like plastering your logo on a website. Like there is a lot of work that kind of goes into that, and it is kind of like we said before, like communicating with the sales team, the marketing team, finding out what actually do you want to gain out of your sponsorship, because there are different sponsorship opportunities that we have that kind of will get different quality of leads, that kind of thing. Like, do you want to sponsor an email? Is it for brand awareness? Do you want to position yourself as a thought leader, like for a conference? Like, what is the main goal? Is kind of you have to establish first, because from that, then you that's when you get your benefits, you get your brand awareness, you get the network and opportunities depending on where you are sponsoring. And again, like we said before, like Alyssia said before about the long-term ROI, it can be like obviously hugely beneficial and can help your market positioning as your brand and get you above your competitors. So it's hard work sponsoring. It's not as easy as everyone thinks it is. You do have to kind of push yourself out there and kind of promote the fact that you are sponsoring a particular opportunity out to your network, share it with your data, get all your sales team sharing that's going to be attending, or kind of like shout that they are sponsoring. It is a bit of both. So senior leaders should expect, when it's done correctly, a long-term ROI and benefits, but when it's done correctly, and kind of give your marketing team grace in that kind of situation.
I think also something leaders need to do is kind of keep up to date with what's going on in the market as well, whether it is the right time to be sponsoring an event or not. I'm not going to sit here and be like, sponsor, because like, obviously we'd love more sponsors to come on board, 100%. It's how we kind of stay afloat as a business. But being completely honest, if it doesn't align with your strategy and what you're trying to do at that year, or within your next 5-year plan, or whatever it is, don't force it. That's what I would say.
One other thing that popped into my mind whilst listening to you guys was kind of a cross between working hard and kind of putting in as much as you expect back, and also knowing when to go in, is deciding how you're going to do events. So for example, the first year Emma and I worked together, we did loads of events, and we kind of did them semi well, like as you would with loads of events as a standard, and having a whole other digital side to work on. And then the next year we noticed that a couple of events did better than others, but also we wanted to put in more effort into a couple of events and do them really well, really integrated, really to the max. Yeah, go bigger in the event itself, but make sure the whole campaign around it is better. So we decided to do fewer events, but better. And I think that's something as a senior leader to be thinking about, because a lot of the time just doing more and more and more events, if for example that you do well at events, typically piling them on, there will be like a peak point where you're not going to be gaining much more out of them. So just thinking about that and not expecting there to just be an infinitely more basically pipeline of events that you're going to be attending.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, I agree with that too. Like, it doesn't matter like if you're doing 20 events in a year. Yeah, it is about the effort that you do put into them. You'd rather do five events in a year, but doing them really well and actually not stretching out your marketing team like too thinly, because there's a lot that goes behind it from marketing, and we want to do them well. Like, they do cost money, so think about before you're going into them, and thinking about what the events are, if it's right, if it aligns with your target audience, with what you are trying to achieve for that year, with your marketing strategy that you've already thought of. So not just kind of being greedy and doing everything and anything just because you can, like thinking about it properly.
Yeah, and I think also there's a well-being conversation to be had as well around it, isn't there? So does your team have the capacity to do it? Are you going to burn some people out by choosing to do this event? Like, you do have to think about your team at the end of the day. So just not chucking it on the end as like, we really need to do this for the business. Do you need to do it for your team? Possibly not. Is it going to tip them over the edge? Those kinds of things need to be taken into consideration as well.
Especially because like events are so like physically demanding. Like, obviously it's a lot of energy to plan, but the day itself is like crazy. And like after that, your team is going to need time to recover from that.
I used to have, I was going to say, I used to, because I just like a personal experience. Obviously, I used to be the in-house person to organize them, and take and do the stand and all that shit, and then also be the person that has been in your guys' shoes and organized the exhibitions. And you have such an adrenaline rush while you're there that I used to not be able to sleep. So like if like we had a conference like yours, so this is like this is a really serious thing, and that's why I had to stop doing events, because I was like, the impact that it was having on me physically, I mean, this is a whole other episode, but the impact that it was having on me physically was like, I can't maintain this for very long if we do so many events, because you are taking on all of that responsibility as the marketing person, and it is super physical and tiring. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the well-being point's really good. So if you're a CEO listening, don't just book an event and dump it on your team. It's not okay to do that.
Yeah. Same from a sales perspective, right?
Yeah,
like you get
fair.
fucking tired.
They're
like
knackered.
Even if you're a good salesperson and you call and you do demos and all of that stuff, being in person is intense. And also don't forget, if you do need salespeople to go, they need to take holidays, and you have to arrange around when what person is available and make sure you give them lots of advance notice so that they don't book a holiday when they're supposed to be at an event, because naturally some people will be better at events than others in your team, and you'll probably want to use those people. So yeah, I think the well-being point is really important here.
Even like making sure you've got budget for travel and hotels, like, and dinner. Like, those are very silly things, but like I have literally worked on people where they've sent salespeople to events and they've not, like, it's been somewhere else in the country and they've not let them stay the night over, and then those people come back absolutely dead on their feet. Like, that's not okay. So it's that sort of stuff, like making sure you budget for all of that. No, that's crappy. So this has been we could literally do part 2 of this conversation, which is like well-being at events. I feel like I've got so many traumatic stories that when we see you at the conference, if you have time for a drink, we can sit down and I can tell you all about the printer that I used to fly all over the world with me.
True story.
It's just like, it's no joke. But before we finish, I'd love to get some marketing or events gossip from you guys. So is there anything that you've been seeing that's been annoying you or that you love that you want to share?
What annoys me right now, and I feel like I came in that with a lot of vengeance, is how quickly like social media, like algorithms keep changing, and you have to do something different every time, and it's not consistent. And it's great for the industry that's not consistent, but it's annoying for marketers that it's not, because channels are always changing, like how many times you should post and what times you should post. Like, you can't use hashtags, you can use hashtags. Like put your links in your comments, don't put it in your actual caption. It's a bit like, it's always changing, and it is something that you always have to keep up to date with constantly. And doing that as well as doing your own job, and it's a lot, and it's very annoying.
Mm-hmm. And also, posts expire after 24 hours, even after all that effort, right? So it's like, yep, I can keep on top of it, and then 24 hours later, okay, well, bam, that's gone. Yeah. What's next?
No, I know that Laura manages a lot of the social media for technology for marketing and e-commerce, and I know that she shares the same annoyances that I do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, like, specifically what I find is frustrating to me is that, especially nowadays, we see that a lot of brands are starting to become social media led. And with that comes the need for a lot of flexibility, because if you need to jump on a trend, like, you don't have time to have it go through 1,000 rounds of approval from senior leadership. Like, you need to jump on the trend now. So this is I guess my main point of frustration personally, because obviously, especially in events, it's like we work with big brands, and there is this, I guess, idea that it needs to be very serious, but that means that from a communication point of view, sometimes it's a bit harder to be able to be more up to date with current trends and things like that. So yeah, I guess that would be my point of frustration.
So mine's kind of less gossip, more of just a funny, like, inside thing that happened once when I was so I used to work for Festival Marketing on content, right? So I'd work quite closely sometimes with a guy called Mark Whitson. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. really, really smart guy, hilarious. And he basically every year he closes the show with his content, right? So I used to have to get his content from him, and he tried one year to get the title for his session over the line as "Sex in the Fast Lane," which I thought was brilliant. And I was like, let's do it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for marketing. It's going to be hilarious, blah, blah, blah. But luckily, my editor-in-chief, who some of you might know, Russell Parsons, who's also hilarious and was my boss at the time, and he's absolutely brilliant. He stepped in and he was like, "I'm not sure this aligns with the brand voice of Marketing Week, so we will maybe tweak that a little bit." But it was just very funny at the time, and we all had a laugh in the office. So that's a little kind of insight into what goes on in events sometimes, which is quite funny.
I always prefer to push it too far and then bring it back than just not push it far enough. So yeah, I think that's the best way around anyway. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being on. It's been a wonderful chat, and we can't wait to see you in person in a couple of weeks' time. Again, go register for the event. Links will be everywhere, episode, blah, blah, blah. You get a social media. And we hope to see you all there.